Welcome to another Google Hangout by myself, Brittany, and Karen, where we talk to you about some tools for you and your classroom. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about two tools. My first one is called Spritz, and my second tool is called Rubistar. So I'm going to share my screen with you so we can go check them out. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Or just say yes if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So Spritz is basically just like a technology. As you can see, it's for students to break down text, and it breaks down like a huge paragraph or a huge page that they would have to read into one word at a time. And I'm going to click to Spritz so you can kind of get an idea of how it works really quick. So it really wants you to focus on the middle of the word, which is in red, and you can see right here you can adjust the words per minute. Even though this little example did it for you, if you were a teacher and you wanted to use it, you can adjust the words per minute. And I think it's a pretty cool technology because when you're reading a word, you do break it down, but you don't think about just focusing on the middle of a word like this program does. So this is the technology that it uses, and now I'm going to show you where you can use the technology. There's a lot of different ways that you can. You can download Spritz, as you see right here, and then there's applications for iOS if a teacher wanted to do it that way. But I'm going to show you a website that uses Spritz technology just because I think when teachers are doing things in their classroom, they are going from a website. It's not usually an app. So this website is called Readsy, and it's pretty simple. You can see that if I'm a teacher and I want to show something to a particular student to see how they're reading, or if I wanted to, if it's the beginning of the year and I want to do every student one after the next, I could sit them down at a computer, and if I have a URL or a file that I want them to read, I would just put it right here, and I would say Readsy, and then it would break it down for them. Or also down here, if I had some kind of reading material that I was going to print out, I could just upload it, and I'll put it in this box, and it will start it, and they can read it. So I'm going to copy and paste just a pretend little thing that I would want my student to read, and then I'm going to click this. And you can see that it's just taking it down one word at a time, and the idea is that they are focusing on the middle of the word while they read. And down
What is
here,
the benefit behind, sorry, Olivia, what's the benefit of focusing on that middle letter?
I think it just focus, really. I think it helps the rest of your brain to kind of relax and pick up the other words so that you're not struggling as much. And for a teacher, down here, it shows you how many words they've read, but of course, you're not sure if they're reading it correctly. That would be a downfall. And also, you can adjust this words per minute, but right now it only lets me go to 200, which is pretty fast. I can't, the 50 is blocked out for some reason, so, I mean, that's still pretty fast for a kid to have to read. But overall, I think it's a pretty cool technology just if I wanted to break something down for a student and assess how they're doing.
So I'm just asking real quick. I don't hear any words. Is that how it works? It's not reading it word by word for the student. It's just breaking a paragraph or a document down word by word so the student focuses word by word and not on the full text.
Right, yeah, it doesn't read it to you. But the cool thing is, like I did, I could pause it, I can go backwards.
Okay.
that's pretty cool, but no, it doesn't read it to you.
Okay.
And from watching your examples, I can definitely see how this would increase their fluency because it's flashing and maybe focusing on that middle letter. They'll develop a pattern, and that'll help a student who struggles with fluency. But what were some more ideas? Did you have any more ideas on how we could maybe use this in other subjects other than reading? I think it would be really cool if you could set it on their screen, like assign the project and it's set up for them to read at that rate. But it sounds like it's not quite there yet. Would the teacher always have to be with them or setting this up for them?
She might just have to upload the text like it says, and that's about it. After that, the kid could press Readsy and they would start reading. And I guess if she wanted to send them home with something, like some kind of file, if they had a computer at home, she could have whatever they were supposed to read on a jump drive sort of thing, and they could upload it in that way. Other than that, I don't understand how else it would be used in a different subject besides like reading a history document or reading something for science.
I think it's a pretty neat idea. I think the words per minute is very unrealistic.
Right.
Maybe it's I'm thinking elementary because that's what I want to do, but 300 words, I mean, I don't know that I was following up. Granted, I wasn't focused on it, but yeah, I don't know. And it could be a matter of to go on the lowest speed just to see how many words they could even just recognize from that. Not, and then you could work on comprehension. Okay, how much? What did you? What did it say?
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing. But
yeah, that was one of the things that I definitely thought was a problem, was how fast it started out, because it really is difficult.
I think it would be interesting.
Is there a paid version where it might be where you can go lower, or is it just?
I don't see there is a login button here. I don't have an account, so I would assume if they have the option right here for 50 words per minute, I'm sure if you made some kind of an account, you could. I'd see that for sure.
In my in my field placement, my teacher just recently sat down her students and they were doing some reading tests, and the teacher was marking some words they got right or wrong, and I could definitely see this would be interesting for the teacher to use to compare how many words per minute they increase and recognize and comprehend, like Karen was mentioning. Having that words per minute there would be a good comparison for evaluation.
Definitely. Alright, so now if we don't have any more questions, I will go on to my next tool. So my next tool is called Rubistar, and it's kind of self-explanatory in the name. It helps teachers make rubrics. And I think what's really cool about this website, they have a featured project. If you wanted to look at somebody's, they show you this month's featured rubric for a project that students had to do. You don't have to have an account. I created one, but you can make a rubric, and you can search for a rubric without having an account. So we're going to search for one. Right down here it says search for a rubric by title. So let's pretend that I wanted to search history 2nd grade. Of course, over here you see that you could do any subject besides history. And I have 8 results. So if I'm struggling with thinking of a rubric for a history project, I could just get on here and look at one already created and get some ideas. This one's from 2008. Stay on task, cleaned up, enter, exit. So I mean, it's a simple rubric, but it's nice that you can just start getting an idea. And up here you can see that it has an ID number. Once you create one, it gives you an ID number so that you can go search it. And at first I wasn't sure how the teachers got their rubric off of this website. I figured that they were able to download it or print it somehow, but I see right here it says print page. So I guess that's how a teacher would, get it off for their students once they created it.
What happens if you click right under the rubric ID? It says find out how to make this rubric interactive. Does that just make it so you can edit somebody else's, or what does that button do? Oh,
I don't know, but that is pretty interesting. Let me try again to see. It might just be because that rubric was so old. But I would
It
imagine.
does say you must first log in as the author in order to save it. So I'm wondering if these just give you ideas, and then by printing the page, you're able to create your own.
Maybe. I mean, I'm going to show you right now how to create one, but I'm not sure. It's really easy. So if you wanted to create one, you just pick whatever topic you want. Let's just say that we're doing a class debate. And it's one problem that I don't like with this website. It says this page will expire in 40 minutes. So you have to like work fast and submit your stuff. Of course, you can go back and edit it. I just don't like how it kind of pressures you.
You almost have to have a written scratch piece of paper to have at least some ideas before you get started.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. They just want your zip code, your first, your last name, your project name, and then down here, category, you just choose whatever category, or you can type one. Organization, how are they doing? It really fills it in for you based on how many points you want. But if you don't want that, all you gotta do is click in here and type something else.
That's really neat, because there's sometimes I think about, when you look at a rubric, sometimes there's not much points difference or what they're asking for it between one points and one set of points and the other, and it's really kind of neat to just see how they are set up, that people don't just pull these ideas out of their head and assign points to them. They actually have some kind of like.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. And then you just press submit after you are finished. This one's pretty large, but I imagine if you don't fill them all in, you can edit how large it is.
I had just needed a rubric for my field placement for a writing assignment, and I was like, I've never made a rubric before, and I saw this on the web, and I actually used it, and I created it from blank because they have that option. I didn't realize you could do all this on there. That's pretty cool. But even creating it from a blank slate, it still gave me those boxes we could see when you scroll down, and it still let me select, like, you can type here and use this for your categories, and it was still set up. It just didn't have stuff in those boxes, and to me, even that was really helpful because I was like, and I could have done it, but it still would have taken a lot more time in Microsoft Word to create all those boxes and the tables and get everything right. It was really good just using it as a blank tool.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to think out of thin air. It kind of gives you a wizard type of thing to kind of step by step to go through building it.
Right, and students really like that. I know as a student I prefer them because it shows me what my teacher is actually looking for rather than just complete this assignment that's worth 100 points when I can see how I'm going to get those 100 points. I really like it, and it makes me slow down and evaluate my work a little bit more, and I think that's something all students could really benefit from is stepping back and not just being the first one to get it in the box or something.
Well, and it's really helpful for a teacher to justify the grade that they gave each student. If a student can come back and say, well, I don't understand, a teacher doesn't have to think back 3 weeks later, from when she graded it to why they gave the student that grade. That their notes and comments are right there in the rubric. There is no question.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool and beneficial, especially for me not yet being a teacher myself, but learning to become one, that there's resources like that out there for new students and students that have been teaching for 10 years that still need help.
Yeah.
So those were my tools, and now Karen will tell us about some more tools.
All right. So my tools are electro inks, I think is how you say it, and UDL Exchange. So the first one is Electron Inks, and this is so cool that I'm not even going to try to put my words into it. I am going to just let you watch the video, and I wish they had these in school when I was in school.
Olivia, you're muted. We can see you're talking, but we can't hear you.
Sorry, I forgot. I was just gonna talk while it was loading, but I remember popping in on my field placement one time on a engineering classroom, and I think that already this seems like a cool little resource that the teacher would like to have.
Here it comes. Okay, so basically there's these pens that are filled with excuse me, metal, and they draw their own circuits instead of building them with actual wires and stuff. They have they're easier, and they can do them anywhere on notebook paper in their notes and all kinds of things. They do have kits for teachers. I think they run about $800, but you get kits for 20 students, groups of 10 to 30. So you think even if students are working in pairs, you still, I think that's reasonable. I think it's so neat the way this was done.
Are the pens only a one-time use thing, or can they be used multiple times?
No, they can be used multiple times. The pens, actually, you can get refills for them, and they're actually just drawing it. So that's where there's a benefit is you don't have to have the actual wires when they actually create circuits. It's all through this metal ink, and the different modules are again reusable, but they're magnetic and they just stick to the page. So it's really kind of neat. This is one that's also up and coming. It's going to be digital, where you can draw your thing on the computer, print it out, excuse me, and then put your things on and bring it to life. So again, that's still in the making, but there is one more. This also I wanted to show you. It's just so neat. I can't give it justice in my own voice.
Why this is loading, I don't think the $800, though, when you think about it, if those pens are reusable and you can buy refills, we have many things. We have some textbooks in my school that are at least 5 years old, and granted, they're going to be updated soon, but they're still in pretty good condition. I think if you stress to the students that they need to take care of these, they could last a long time.
Yeah, and I think you can even get, some kind of grant money and stuff. These are big with the STEM program. So again, if your school does the STEM program or has any kind of grant funding or something that they can get through STEM, this would definitely be beneficial. It's so neat to see it all come together that you don't need necessarily the physical wires to make it work.
And this reminded me. Sorry, Olivia, go ahead.
I think just for some reason being able to draw it rather than using wires not only seems safer to me, but also it's just another avenue of creativity, being able to draw something, because that automatically interests me. I love to draw, and I just think it's really creative, and it's going to help students learn in a totally different way.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think as they're being creative, they're also really going to be thinking they're going to be thinking critically as they're using the tool. It made me think of the one time my teacher gave me a battery, a wire, and a light bulb and said, "Get your light bulb to light up." And I was like, "What in the world? This thing's not going to light up." And I think many students may feel stressed when they're actually given the real tools, and that's good application, but like students like Olivia may be a little bit more relaxed as they're still thinking critically, they're still being creative, but it's not as overwhelming because you're more focused on being artistic and getting it to work than you are actually getting the light bulb to light up right away.
Exactly. Yeah, I took an electronics class in high school, and it was you know before you were allowed to build anything, they wanted you to draw the schematics to see that you understood how it was going to work. Obviously, because when you work with it, you could blow stuff. You could blow resistors and stuff. That at least this way, excuse me, it's a little safer and see if it's going to load. And a little, at least the students have thought it out on paper before they go ahead and connect anything. So I really wish this would work.
At least even without the video, we're still able to see how it works and what it is and how it could be used.
Yeah, it's definitely a really, really neat one. You can see here how there's some that they've done. I won't try to play them because obviously it's not working, but how they can be so freehand drawing, not they don't have to use a ruler or anything, and then you can see how neat and this one is.
Now, what do you think, looking at these pictures and the different ability levels? I can definitely see that picture on the left that you just showed us being like something maybe upper middle school or high school tech ed student would do, but the one on the right reminds me of something my students, it almost looks like a man with a nose to me. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But what do you think would be the lowest grade you could use this in, Karen?
I mean, safety-wise, I think you could use it as low as kindergarten, but again, kindergartners aren't learning about this either. So I think probably curriculum-wise, this might be third and up. I don't know. I guess it would depend on the standards. I'm trying to think. But I think safety-wise, I think definitely as low as kindergarten. But again, I don't know that it's taught that it would be worth that. Back to buying the kits. You could buy kits just for the school and have classrooms and grades share them even if money was an issue as far as getting funding and paying for the kits too. So I just think it's really neat. I wish they had it when I was in school because this is the video. It shows you where they're drawing schematics in their notebook almost as if they were taking notes, and they're using the pen, and you can see they place a watch battery. It's a bigger watch battery, I guess, like you would put in a remote maybe, and they place it on the one side, and then they draw a circle with the metal pen, and then fold the corner of their notebook over, and it lights up the module that they had put on their paper. So it was really neat to see that there's no special paper that they need. It's just literally the modules and this metal pen that makes these work. So it's just
and I think for people who have been keeping up with our tool talks, they've heard us say in the last one with a lot of our tools that, well, you need to make sure technology is working, and the video not playing right now reminded me of this, but this one really has no technology in that aspect stopping you. Granted, you probably couldn't send it home with your students like some technologies, but it has a different form of technology, and once you buy the kit, it doesn't sound like much stands in your way of using it in the classroom, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and again, after the initial kit, if over the years you lose a certain module or, they start to break or something, you can just replace those pieces. You don't need to buy all new kits, which is really nice. You can start out with a certain kit, and if you decide that you want a different type of module or more of one module so they can build bigger, circuits and stuff, you can add, add on to them as well. So I think it's really neat. I was very surprised. But you can check out this electronics, and you can actually view the video to see how cool it was. Sorry, I guess the streaming in the Hangout and the video is not working. But does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay. So my next one is called UDL Exchange. It logged me out. But UDL Exchange is basically kind of like Teachers Pay Teachers, where you can buy lesson plans on Teachers Pay Teachers. This is where you can share lesson plans, you can build lesson plans, or you can just find resources on that are UDL. So they're universal design lessons. So you can browse for certain ones. And you can, of course, if you know a title or an author, you can search that way. You can search by whether it's a lesson, a resource, or a collection. You can search by content area. You can search by grade. And you can search by certain standards. Not that we ever have a hard time fitting standards in somewhere and throughout the year, but if there was a certain standard that you're like, I just can't fit this in, and you need an idea of how to do that, you could certainly search by that specific standard to find at least an idea of how others are doing it. You can search by media and by purpose, whether it's going to be a whole classroom instruction or you're going to do like a small guided group, or whether it's for professional development. So let's just search for a math for first grade, and I'm going to do first grade. It does, I believe, in your results still give you, because some of them are have a range on them, it will still bring up some ranges. Yeah, okay. So it just automatically refreshes as you select. Did it? Yeah. So here's one, we balance each other out. You can see the content areas are science and math. So this would be a nice one to maybe integrate some of your standards. So it tells you who wrote it and when it was last updated. You can print it, and this is the whole lesson plan itself. It tells you about the lesson, how long, the purpose. So you could use it as classroom, whole classroom, or small group. And of course, there's your. This will tell you the standards that it's using, which is really nice. Tells you your goals, the types of assessments. I've looked at multiple, and most of them have had both formative and summative assessments. So it's really nice that it gives you both options.
Karen, not to make you go back up real quick, but those standards you discussed, are those Common Core standards, Maryland standards? What were those right there?
They are Common Core.
Okay.
Yep.
You just scrolled too fast, I couldn't see it. I'm sorry.
Yep, Common Core. I'm not, I think they all are on here, but you may find that there are some that are not. The ones I've seen so far have all been Common Core. And then, of course, it tells you your open, your during, and your closing, and then the materials you need. So this is just as if you were to write your own lesson plan. And even if you weren't going, step by step directly from this, it at least gives you an idea of how others are, incorporating math and science together and how they're using these standards. So let's see.
Sometimes I think it's really hard as a teacher. We know we have to teach something, but we get stuck on how to do this. And like you said, I think this is great to find something and use a UDL approach to include the whole entire class and everybody you need to. But as you mentioned, I think modifying it is very important, because if I were to teach Miss Nichols' plan you just showed us, it wouldn't be like something I teach because my students are used to my teaching method. So I think it's very important to grab ideas from here, but not to go all off this, because I'm sure your students will feel the difference too if you're not teaching in your normal environment.
Yeah, it's a great starting point for a teacher just to brainstorm and get ideas.
Yeah. So, and like here's one. It's called iPad lessons or iPads lesson. So again, it's about math. But you can see you wouldn't even open this lesson if you didn't have iPads in your classroom. So it definitely tells you, and here's an estimated time. So that right away tells you if your math time is over that, then this is going to be more than one day's lesson for you, and then you would have to split it accordingly to your schedule. So, but I think that's really neat. There's some tutorial videos up here as well on how to build them, how to share them. This is more for the website itself. And then here's some model ones. The monkey's paw. We've read this one in class. And then you can actually build your own. So you can build a new lesson, new resource, or a collection. You actually save it here, and you can also share them. You can have one shared with you. So this can be used within your school. So if one first grade teacher decides to go on here and make a new lesson, they can share it with the rest of the first grade teachers. That way they're all using them, but they're all digitized as well. So they just have to log into their account and print it off. So it's not like they have to email and copy and share it physically. It's all stored in here. I think that's one thing with the world go green is by creating these accounts, you have them all in here. You don't need to print them all out. You can review it right before your lesson or that the day before to know, okay, I remember what I'm going to do now. And you don't have to, where did I print that? Did I get it off the printer? Where did I put it? We have tons racing through our brains at all hours of the day, so it's nice that you don't have to worry about where did you place it or where is it at.
And Karen, that's a really good point about saving and not printing paper, because I know that if anybody walks next to the copier or by the copier, you see 5 teachers standing in a line with a armful of paper because they're printing off lessons for if they are sharing a math lesson, they've got everyone's math lesson. So it is nice to just kind of have it on the computer rather than having to print out so many copies.
Yeah.
And not only that, if you're not using a cloud or something on your computer to save, you're only using a flash drive, your computer's hard drive, or an external hard drive, it's very easy for that stuff to crash. I think this gives a little bit of self-assurance that it's not going anywhere for the most part. It's going to be there, and you're not even going to lose it in that aspect either.
Well, and like you said, if your computer crashes, this is as long as you have a computer that's accessible to the internet, you can get this. So there's no reason why you're unprepared. So that is a good point as well. In here, new resource. So you can type a new resource, and let's just type test. But you can actually like upload pictures and files. So if you found a great PDF and it's 30 pages long, but you think it's important that the teacher reads through it to help support the lesson and that you've created, you can upload that file, that it's there as a resource. If there are certain if you're talking social studies and you have documents that the students are going to use to support a reading or like the Declaration of Independence or something that they want to be able to pull from, you can actually, if you find a picture, upload it, websites, all that stuff that can be used in conjunction with lesson plans or just other lessons that you might come across. It's nice to, sometimes you find resources and it's like, oh, I really like this, but I don't have a lesson plan it fits into yet. So I'm going to save it, and then maybe you can create a lesson plan that uses it. A lot of times if you don't have somewhere to save it, it's like, I'll remember to go back there, and you never remember to go back there. So, but any other questions?
I do like how this includes a tutorial videos. One of the teachers in my grade, she is a a little bit older, and not to single her out, but a lot of older people I find do not like this technology change. And it's not just this website. I like that a lot of these websites are helping those people as long as they take the time. There's no reason, even though we may think this is easy to use, I think our generation with time gap, they could figure this out on their own. But there are teachers that are in their 50s and maybe even in their 60s that have no interest to use technology, but they have to keep this generation, the newer one, involved. So those little videos and helpful hints along the way, I really do like those for that.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, those were my two. And now Brittany's going to tell you about a couple more. Hold on. Where's my... I have to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, perfect. So today I'm going to be sharing 3 tools with you guys. I'm going to be sharing the CAST UDL book builder, so it's going to follow what Karen showed with the UDL model. I'm also going to be showing you a UDL science writer and another video annotation tool. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys and jump right in. Okay. So my first one we'll go over is the UDL Book Builder. And just as its title tells you, the Book Builder allows teachers to build books that appeal to many learners. It uses this UDL style they mention. This system uses the universal design in everything they do. There are many modifications that you'll see as we go through this today that are going to be very useful in your classroom. This is Terry. He gives tips along the way for teachers. So right here you can see some of his tips, and you'll see him pop up a little bit more throughout our time on this website today. So on this website you can read books, create and share books, and you can learn more about the universal design for learning. So I went ahead and I created a username and password to show you guys some benefits of this site. So when we read books, we have the option to look at model books or public library books. And I have been looking at model books while thinking of some things to tell you guys today. And when you're looking at books, you have the option to search by category. And you can also download the book right here. So if I maybe want to send a student home with this, or my classroom, I know internet's going to be down one day, you can download the book and then just view it on your computer. However, I did like reading it more. Not much changes, but you do lose some of your coaches and other aspects like that. So we're going to search first grade, and we're just going to look at fiction today. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to look at nonfiction. Let's look at nonfiction. And we're going to search, and you could put in as many options as you want up here. And we'll search. And one should come up on tadpoles. And it shows you right here the grade. So even though I put in first, it could be used for kindergarten, first grade, or second grade. And there's 8 ratings, so you can rate them after you read them. And the average rating is 3.1, so not possibly the best score, but just as anything with ratings, we know that people can harshly score things, and everybody has different opinions. So it's really important to look at it yourself to see if you like it. So this is how the book appears on your screen, and here is Terry again. So Terry this time tells us that Tadpoles is a picture book about the life cycle of frogs. And he says, notice that Pedro prompts readers to really pay attention to the details and talk about what they see and read. And then he says some more. Now you're probably wondering who in the world is Pedro. The UDL model uses these coaches down here. So here is good old Pedro. And you click on the coaches on each page, and hopefully this video plays.
Brittany, we can't see the book.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me go and change my screen sharing settings, and let me know if you can see it that way. I'm not sure why you guys can't see it because it's still on the internet. Hold on one second. Let me change that. I'm going to choose a different option to see if that would change anything, but I don't see why it would. And if not, we can go off some examples.
Yep, we
Can
can
you
see
see
it
the
now.
book this time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is the book, and as you guys heard me say, here's Terry over here, and this was everything I read that Terry said. Thanks for letting me know that wasn't working, Karen.
Yep.
And here is Pedro. And if you click on the video, he'll just read it to you, but he's going to say, let's make a prediction about what do you think this story is about. So if students were doing this independently, they could take this time to think about, the title, and it says tadpoles, and it shows me a picture of tadpoles changing. So maybe it's about their life cycle, and it really makes students slow down and think about what they're reading. Now, there's some other really cool features of this book as well. Over here you see is the text help section. So if I click on this pointer, I can underline something, click play. Let me turn my volume up, and I'm going to stop talking so you guys can hear it. But when I press play, you'll be able to hear it read aloud to you.
Written by Gina Stefanini. Illustrated by Darcy Schwartz.
And that option can be used throughout the whole reading of the book. And then this is really interesting. I don't know if you guys saw when I was looking for a book, but there was some Spanish books. Mm-hmm. And here is a translator. So let's go to the next page of the book. So you can go page by page or select what page you want to go to. We're just going to go to page 2 for this. And if I didn't know what the word eggs meant, or if I needed to translate it to my language, right here, and they would write it out, tell me what it really was in English, and then say it in Spanish. And another really interesting feature of this, besides the coaches who have changed what they're going to say page by page, if I click on any words that are underlined, it will show me a dictionary definition. So can you guys see this dictionary definition?
Yeah.
Okay, so here it tells me what a tadpole is, and it shows me some pictures, and it helps students slow down instead of just reading. Tadpoles start out in little eggs. Now, there's a lot of things that could start out in little eggs, so as students pause, they can see that tadpoles, as it just showed us, are the ones that start out in little eggs. So this was just a preview. All these features can be used in every page.
Brittany, can you if you just press play, does it read the whole book for you, or do you have to highlight like you did?
I honestly don't know. When I was reading about it, I heard we had to highlight it. So let me go ahead and try that. I'm going to turn my volume up so you guys can hear it again. It seems as if you would have to highlight it, and I think the idea behind that would be, or I would use this as a teacher, reading aloud to students is important, but by using this, it's going to be modified, so different students may need a lot of it read to them and a lot of them not read to it. And with knowledge of a mouse, it's really easy to, just grab this and highlight the whole thing, so it doesn't take too much effort to do so. And another idea behind this is that a student may be able to read start out in little eggs, but this word tadpoles throws them off, so that may be the only word they need help with. So it kind of differs in levels by doing that too, instead of reading right through.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, oh, that's kind of stupid that it doesn't just read it for them, but again, it would be great for guided reading where they can read most of the words but might get stuck on one and can't figure it out, where that is nice too. So I wasn't thinking of that at first.
Brittany, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Where you clicked on the little guy in the corner and he said, let's make a prediction, can you, if a teacher wanted to, could she type, what the student said in that little box, or is it just kind of just for discussion?
No, I'm about to show you right now. I'm going to go ahead and create a book, and as we create the book, we'll have the ability to edit some of those coaches. So let me go ahead with that and show you how to create a book. So we're going to go back to the home page, and we are going to create and edit my books. And people can also share these books once they're done, and they would appear down here. So create and edit my books. And here's one I started to test, but we're going to make a new one so you guys can see completely from scratch. But if I already had them created, right here is where they could show up. And you can search yours. Say you were in 5th grade one year and you've switched to kindergarten, but a 5th grade teacher needs you to pull back up that lesson and you've created, or I'm sorry, pull back up that book that you used. You could pull it back up right on here and give it to them. Now, as we're making the book, I just want to let you guys know that these books, if you want to create a book that's already published, such as The Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle, you need to get permission for those publishers to do this. These are self-made books that will help students understand a concept you've been discussing. So you do have to implement your creativity in order to do this. And right here is where you would enter all your information about your book before you create it. So we'll just say, let's say science. We're just going to make something up, and we'll say this is going to be fiction for 1st grade, and I'm going to use English today. And I would like my book to appear as a portrait. And Olivia, this answers your coach's question right here. I can use as many coaches as I want. I can make my own coaches, and I can choose the voice of my coaches. So we're just going to use Pedro, Haley, and Monty today, but I could also use Bot, Emma, Alex, all of these guys if I wanted to. And we're going to submit. And then here's my book. When I first looked at this page, I was a little overwhelmed, but it is it's much easier than it seems. So right here we see we're on page 1 of 1, and I'm going to make a title page. So I click title page over here, and then it says click or add to edit text. So we're going to add text, and we're going to say the yellow duck. I'm only going to do a couple pages to save time. I think you guys will get the hang of it the further we go along. I'm going to add an image from my computer, so choose File on my desktop, and I've already downloaded some pictures. And I'm going to upload it. And there is the yellow duck. Whoops, sorry guys. Okay, we're just going to save him. And then we're going to add and edit this text. So you just see you want to click on each box as you go along. Hi, Brittany, Kirby, that's me. Save it. And I could read this to my students, and this is where I add what my coaches would say. So I could say, why do you think the story is called The Yellow Duck? And I could say...
So really at this point, you could have a worksheet or something that the students need to fill out to answer those questions before they can actually move on to reading the book, so that you make sure that they're actually using those coaches. And those are something that you want them to always think about when they're reading a book, whether, look at the title, look at the front cover. What do you think this book's going to be about? And then have them making their predictions, so that that's something that we as teachers want them to do every time they look at a book. So that's nice that you can do that.
Yeah, and I never thought about giving the worksheet, but another cool thing would be the fact that if I was creating this for my class, I know what I allowed the coaches to say, or I could jot it down. So I could even, tell the students to jot down their thoughts on a piece of notebook paper. I wouldn't even have to take the time to make a worksheet, because I've already made these questions once. Now, this is where I did get a little confused, because I was like, well, how's this page going to look? But you kind of trust yourself and keep going along, and the more you build, the better you'll get. So if I skip a number and I was like, oh, I forgot my title page, if we're imagining this is page 1, I can add a page before and make my title page. But we're going to add a page after. And then I'm going to select my layout to begin again. So we're going to do a content page, and this box with the X is your image, so I'm going to put my image up the top, And this is going to be the last page we're going to do, but we're going to add an image, and we're going to choose a file, and let's use this one. Upload. And right here you could add a caption and all that kind of stuff, but just for purposes of this, I want you to see how the program is going to work. We're just going to save this so we don't take up, and we're going to only edit some text, and we're going to say the yellow duck is not like any other duck. He only likes to swim in island waters. And then we could, use Pager to say, using what you have read in the text, decide on a good name for the yellow duck. And this may be a question for older grades, but what this is pulling from is we want them to make some inferences. We wouldn't want them to call the duck Lucy because he only likes to swim in the island waters. And if that's the only coach I wanted to use on this page, you don't have to use all 3 coaches on each page either. So just for today's purposes, we're going to complete our book down here. Is your book complete? And we're going to, let me hide this right here. We're going to save. And right there was a little, I'm sorry I skipped through that too fast, but right down there at the bottom it warns you about copyrights and getting permission and all that. So even though I've saved it, I can still edit it, but if we read it, this is what our book looks like now. And it still has all of the same features. Now the teacher isn't the only one who has to create these books. As I was creating them, I thought that you could put together, you could, as an art teacher, or if you use art integrated into any subjects, you could take some pictures and let the students write up a little thing about their artwork and use some coaches, and then look through the book as a class and use the coaches. So if the student wrote something on a coach, click on the coach and have other students reflect on that student's piece of artwork. And I think we could also create it to review any content or practice skills. Now, when you're reading this, is there anything I want to ask you guys? What do you think the main thing students can benefit from the coaches down here?
I just like how it's different than a read aloud where the kids are sitting on a rug. It's more interactive to me, just seeing a little person pop up and reading the question. I just think it's more interactive.
Yeah, and when I was reading it, in first grade we definitely learned how to use our before, during, and after reading skills, but I have to admit I may do it subconsciously, but I don't do it a lot anymore. And I think this will help students increase their comprehension abilities, because when they're using these reading coaches, they will have to slow down and look for things when reading on their own. And if I was going to quiz them, I could make a Kahoot quiz and tell them after reading this book to go take that Kahoot quiz, or after we've discussed it in class, go take the Kahoot quiz. So then they'll know that if they don't understand a word, they better translate it, listen to the coach. They're going to need to do everything, so they're going to be aware of all those options in the book.
I think this tool is great, for even the aspect of assistive technology, where, if you're having a student, create books, you're having the students create books, and you have one that just doesn't have the skills to be able to write, that people can read it. This is a way for them to be able to use it. This is a way for the teacher to be able to, yes, create books, but also to put all that knowledge in one area. Even if it is just words with small pictures, they can enlarge the words so that the student can read it easier, or it can be read to them if they highlight it. So I think it can be used as far as that goes as well. It's not even just an independent, like a center rotation for reading, but just for a piece of another tool for assistive technology.
And going back on the point I made earlier, I told you guys that you need to get permission from publishers to use their books when doing this. And just recently in my field placement, we were reading a book on Clara Barton, and my teacher had, I think it was 8 students in her group and only 6 books. So, some students did have to share books, and the lessons still went through as planned, but reading is an individualized thing, so it would have been nice if she could have written to the publisher to get permission to do that ahead of time. So I'm not saying avoid it, I'm saying take those extra steps to do that. And another thing I just want to make sure you guys may have taken in that I took in is that that building a book can be quite overwhelming. So if you're planning to go ahead and make these books with students, let's just look at what this page looked like. It's pretty overwhelming. This can be done in the classroom, but you're going to need to take time to instruct students on how to use this. And of course, once they use it multiple times, you won't need to set aside that time to instruct them again. You may just be assisting them as they go through.
Back to your scenario in your field placement with the extra books, if you could have used the public library books, correct?
What was that? I'm sorry, Karen?
In your field placement where you said they were short 2 books, you could have used the public library books and maybe found that book there that 2 students could have read it on a computer or iPad?
Well, yeah, I could have even taken we have some guided readers in our school that we were using, and what I was saying is that we were short some copies of guided readers at that level. So with permission from the company, and I'm not sure off the top of my head who that company is, but if I would have called or wrote to the company and they would have given me permission to use that, what I'm saying is I could have taken the time as the teacher to go home and type up the book on here and make it look somewhat similar, and then all of the students would have had a copy of that book. But yes, you could have also gone to the library and found it there too, but it may not have worked with that system they had.
Right, the guided reading. Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the Cast Science Writer. So this one was super cool, I thought, at least. The Cast Science Writer, as it says right here, supports students in writing labs and class reports. I really like it because it gives depth to the reports. The page says right here that it's geared toward middle school and high school students, but I think if we modify it, it can definitely be used for upper 5th grade students. So I'm going to show you all this stuff, but just to give you a little intro, when you do it, you will have access to checklists, a journaling place, the process for writing, drafting, revising, editing, sentence starters. These are great because so many students jump right in and don't give an intro to what they're about to say. And text-to-speech like the book builder had, and just like the book builder had, but with some different names, Pedro became Sam and Callie became Echo. So let's go, where should we start? Let's go ahead and start to make one so you guys can see. Let me log in. I've also created an account on this page, but it's going to ask me to put in my stuff again. Well, maybe not this time. Let me log in. And this is one I've made for you. I'm going to come back and show this one to you because it does take a bit to do the whole project, and that's what the final project's going to look like. So if we start a new project, we're going to type in the project name, so we're just going to leave it test again. And these are going to be all the parts of the report. And you can choose, so like research, question, hypotheses, kind of the same thing, but what fits what you're doing better. And then introduction or thesis, which one fits, and it does this for all of these methods, procedures, results, and conclusion or discussion. Just going to go ahead and hit next. This one says, and this is what the students would see. So we're in the drafting process. And this is our research question. Scientific inquiry begins with a question about the research you will conduct. Write 1 or 2 sentences in the form of a question and focus on the purpose of your research. So I could say, I want to know why clouds look different. For this project, I am wondering what makes clouds look different. And Echo's over here, so if they ever get stuck, they can hit on Echo. And let me turn my volume up so you can hear him.
Write a question that represents what your research is about. A question should be clear and not very long.
So this will help students if they're confused. And this does the same thing. It reads what you're typing, and it can do it slow, fast, medium, your choice. And then this is what I really want to show you guys, because this is the coolest part. And we all know that what the introduction, methods, results, and conclusion are. So I'm not going to show you guys every section. I just want you to go ahead and get an idea of what happens as you create each section. Another thing I want to show you, I'm getting ahead of myself before I move on, is Max's report and Sam's report. They have created reports, and it will show you examples each time. So Max's report, he said, how many fetching sticks do people throw on the pond? And Sam's report said, which size of snowball will go the farthest? So that shows students an example for their work.
And I assume because we're in the drafting stage, we should have seen errors in those?
Yes, they didn't have a question mark because they do want students to make some mistakes, because now I got ahead. I clicked on the revise page, and you'll see that as we go through, hopefully students are catching those mistakes, and they'll change theirs as well. So the directions in the revise, we can read them ourselves. Review the research question you wrote, use the checklist, and make any needed changes. So I missed one really important step, guys. So I have to, I missed one really important step, so that was a good example to show you guys. So we're just going to leave it as what do clouds have that make them different? We're just going to leave it as that. And as you've seen, my question didn't go to the next page. You have to save it every time. And then click next, and it should show up. So here's my question. So make sure you save before you click to the next page. So here's my revising checklist that students would look at. Does your research question focus on the topic of your project? Yes, clouds, so I could check it. And is your research question brief? Only 1 or 2 sentences? Yes, it's only 1 sentence.
Are these questions that you as the teacher make, or are they built into the program?
They are built into the program, so they will be the same with everything. And unfortunately with this one, you can't change Max's report or Sam's report. That stays the same as well.
And do they have to check those physically before they can move on?
I did when I was playing, just because I like visuals, but we can uncheck them and see.
I'm just curious.
No, they don't have to check them, but hopefully they're not just, and that is one thing when we're letting students do these processes on their own, we are hoping and assuming they've done the right thing, and when I grade their work, you'll see the final project, I'll be able to tell that they did not do the right thing. So stress to them that you should use these and you should check them to make sure you've done it.
Part of me was thinking that it should be required, because then at least they have to at least look at them before they can move on. That, you know, whether they physically fully read them or not, they at least know that they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good idea, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because I just assumed to check them because it says checklist, and I never thought of the student who wouldn't. And then as we move to my edit stage, it has my instructions again. So does each sentence begin with a capital letter? Capital letter, check. And once again, you go through. Is there a question mark at the end of the research question? Are all proper nouns capitalized? I don't have any, so I'm still going to check it. Is every word spelled correctly? And it does have spell check, so students should not be questioning their spelling. They should be able to fix it. And is every sentence a complete sentence? Yes. And we can go ahead and move on. And then it will move us into the next section of the introduction. Now, I'm not going to keep going through this with you guys. You guys see, as I've done my research question, it comes up. So as you complete your introduction, it'll come up and it'll type your methods below. And it follows the same pattern. I encourage you guys to get on here and play with it. Now, the only thing different with the introduction is this Help Me Get Started button. Help Me Get Started is the sentence starter. So choose a sentence starter. And this changes by depending on what part of the science report you're on. So sometimes it's just really hard for students to come up with a intro to their thoughts. They just want to jump right in. So this helps them slow down. But
I know I would definitely benefit from sentence starters if I was ever having to do a science report, because I can remember writing them in college, and I think that this website would help.
Yeah, my first paragraph's always the hardest.
And I think this is really good for students to help them in those aspects, but it's important that we don't use this consistently, because students may begin to rely on the technology rather than this process and the science process and the writing process that's involved. As mentioned earlier, this will help the students slow down. Currently, in that third grade classroom I'm in, I watch students on a day-to-day basis rush through their work just to get to the end of the activity, as I said earlier. This may be too challenging for third grade, but I think it could be modified and maybe even find a different program to slow down their writing process and require them to think a little bit deeper to use it.
Brittany, even if you're just even if you just show them this website and say, look at these possible sentence starters, or look at how your body of work should be laid out, even if they don't use it, you just use it as like a mentor kind of thing, at least it's kind of showing them organization and what components it should have.
I think that's a really good idea as well. This take some of that anxiety off of, that stress off of the student, for especially if they're a first-time, research paper writer. That at least, it does walk them through step by step, and it just takes that stress of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What's it supposed to look like? Is this right? Type of thing. This kind of helps them through that.
Most definitely, and this journal's also up here. This is where students can log notes or, as it says, reflect on your work for your project. So instead of, I'm famous for always having notebook paper when I do something on the computer, and I think the more we get along with technology, the more they're trying to stray away from that. So instead of writing your notes on the notebook paper while you're doing this, write them up here, because it's going to save right to the system and save them as an entry, and you can view them again. So now I'm going to go back to my home page, and we're going to look at a project I created. And you can see that we have the ability to print and email it. So when you're using this in the classroom, you probably don't always want your students to print all of these. You're going to want them to email. And it's important to remember that students might not have internet access at home. They may not have emails. So take the time to create a free account, like a Gmail or Yahoo email with them, and they can use this continually in your classroom for other projects you do as well. And the teacher must also be open to getting all these email submissions. It's a little bit of a change from the paper submission, but as technology changes, we will adapt as well. So you can see that for this one, the project was disappearing water, and the hypothesis: if the beaker of water is left in the sun for a long time, more water vapor will disappear. Now, my hypothesis took a little bit different form. We just did a research question, and I chose hypothesis. As I made the hypothesis, those Max and all my help on that page told me to make it as a if-then kind of statement. So that's what I did here. And then my report, I wanted to study water because sometimes in the summer, water disappears from my pool. I do not know where the water goes. I do know that it is really hot in the summer. The sun might make the water disappear. I am interested in finding out if sun makes the water disappear. I was trying to do this as if I was a student, and if I were to show my students an example, and showing you guys what your students' examples would look like. And I have to admit that after my college science classes, trying to break this down was really hard, but those coaches even helped me break it down to what we could expect even a fifth graders to look like. And here I made all my procedures of my experiment, and the beaker that stayed in the sun had a quarter of the water disappear. The beaker that was in the closet did not lose any water. And here's my conclusion. I restated what my experiment was about and talked about how to change the results. And this isn't only what this program does. I think this program is really good. It helps students' writing abilities. It helps them think about the science processes and everything. There's many skills that can be gained from this. And if I hit next, I have the ability to go and edit it. So that wasn't as the student, they always have the ability to edit. They don't have to stop right here, but they can also go ahead and print and email the report. So now I'm going to go to my last tool, and I must say it is still just as interesting as the other. This is called Video Ant, and I am logged in with my Gmail. You can log in with Facebook or Google, anything you want to remember. And I'm going to log right on into my Video Ant, and I've created one for you to see. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Video Ant. This program was originally created in 2010, and as I was looking up some information about the program, some people said that the original version was really hard to use, but believe it or not, 2010 was 6 whole years ago, and the program has had a lot of changes that make it easier to use. So before we view mine, I'm going to show you how to use it. So you want to click New Ant, and that is short for annotation. And you can upload any YouTube video. And then you go through and add annotations. So now we're going to look at mine for this part. I've already loaded this video. And we are going to add or view annotations. And you click this button right here to add an annotation. Click wherever you want in the video. Let's just guess a random spot. Oh. And right there we're going to say that we have to move this guy though. Well, and then we would click a question or a subject. So my subject would be test, and my question would be test. And you would save it and upload it to the video at that point. Now all the annotations appear and allow you to jump from point to point in the video. So this is force right here, and this, I can't grab this guy for some, maybe this will, I don't know why I can't get a hold of this guy, but you can move them, switch them around wherever you want them. And, oh, there we go. So I could move him all the way out here. And I could see that at 23 seconds in the video, we want to focus on what is a force. And at 53 seconds, I want to focus on this test. Now, I've moved this guy, so he's probably not in the right spot. But I'm going to play the video to let you guys get an idea. And I hope it appears close to where I had it.
Suppose you wanted to move a small rock. You couldn't do it just by wishing the rock would move. And you couldn't do it by magic. And you couldn't do it by ordering the rock to move. There's only one way you could make the rock move.
I hope you guys saw that when we hit that annotation, the force box was kind of emphasized to, hey, I'm over here, and go ahead and take a chance to respond. And I could say that I think a force is a push or a pull because that, excuse my typing tonight, that is how the rock will move. Now, and I can save my response.
Did you stop it or did it stop on a thing?
Once this is, sorry about that, it keeps going once you've made your response, as you just saw. But one downfall is that I wish you would stop doing that, is that you can't edit your response. Once it's there, it's there. So if I, went all the way to the next annotation that made me think about this one, I would have to copy this, or copy, delete this, paste it in a whole new response, and add in my new thoughts. Now, you can also annotate with other people. So if I wanted to have students create YouTube videos and use annotations to critique the work of others, they could all annotate each other's work. And the person with the account, so that in this case that would be me, I could send it to you guys, and you guys don't even need an account to add or view the annotations. So you could look at this without an account, and you could also add to my annotations without an account. Only one person needs the account. So beyond peer critique, as I mentioned, using this, the teacher could also use this as critiquing. In our last hangout, Karen mentioned a tool where students could create their own videos and act like they're in places. Now, the teacher could require them to upload them to YouTube and comment on it here, and either as their final grade so they can understand a little bit better, or as a revision process, because you can hold a whole conversation right here about that certain part in the video. Now, unfortunately, one thing we all notice is that when students are watching the video, sometimes they zone out and they're not really paying attention. So from this annotation, from 21 seconds to 53 seconds, I may be checked out and in La La Land. But the annotation requires students to turn into active learners, and it develops this skill as the more and more they use video annotations in this aspect. They have to participate in the project if I'm assigning it in any aspect. So it moves them from passive listening to active listening. And also, as they're creating these responses, they can see other students. So if Karen or Olivia if you guys were to comment on this, you can see that I've already covered a force is a push or pull because that is how the rock will move. So you may not want to say the same thing. You could just say, I agree with Brittany, and submit it. So that teaches students how to sift through what other students have left and evaluate the information. You could also disagree with me if you didn't believe what I say. And it teaches them how to participate in a conversation, not only on the computer, in our classrooms as well. Because in our classrooms, sometimes, and not that it's a problem, that is what occurs in class discussion, but many topics or ideas may be repeated and they've already been addressed and we've already grasped those concepts. So they would use the sifting and evaluating in classroom discussion as well. Now, when I was looking at this tool for the first time, I noticed that it can be very overwhelming. So as I mentioned with the UDL Book Builder, you may also want to take the time, if students have never, responded to annotations, on how to do this. There's a lot of new technology that's coming out that students aren't going to know how to do. And I didn't mention this earlier in the Science Writer, and I probably should have, but responding to me in this, or even in the Science Writer, requires that students actually know how to type. In my 3rd grade class, once again, we went to the computer lab to type up Grandparents' Day papers the other day, and I was surprised at the lack of skill they had with typing. Now, I don't remember how much skill I had at that age. I only know how much skill I have now. So if students, 1st graders, this may not be the best option. It may also be a good option for 1st graders, though, because it teaches them to build that skill. So if you use short questions with short responses.
However, if you do this from an iPad or a tablet, when you when your keyboard comes up, a lot of times it has that voice-to-text option. So that's a way that they could do it, and they wouldn't necessarily have to type. What if say someone had a cast on their writing hand, or something like that, that they could still respond to this with that voice-to-text.
That's a good point, Brittany. I didn't even think about being able to do that. I was like, yeah, if you can't type well, it's a little hard, but that's a good point.
Yeah, Karen, I that's why I love doing these things. I love hearing everybody's opinions. I never thought about that. So then that even adds another benefit, because we can practice our typing skills, but we can also appeal to all learners, and we can make sure they can do the project as well. And talking about devices, it's very important that students have access to these devices. It's very important that students have access to these devices, because if I didn't have enough iPads or enough computers or whatever, I could even have it on my smartboard, but if I don't have a way to display it, it's not useful in the classroom. So as always, make sure you have access to those devices for whatever program you want to use. So did anybody have any questions on my tools?
No.
Okay, well, I think this wraps up the end of our second tool talk. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have found some new tools to implement technology in your classroom. Thanks again.